Hello everyone, I'm making this YouTube video about the Divine Masculine today in response to a few Facebook questions on this really pertinent topic. So the Divine Masculine is something that we all have within us, whether we're female or male, and I believe that we are honouring our incarnation in the sense of women are majoring in the Divine Feminine, men are majoring in the Divine Masculine. And that's what, in that lifetime, the learning that you are attempting to be inside your heart. Now, that's not a gender stereotype. It is genuinely an energy state that we're discussing here. I'm going to talk about gender woundings in relation to the Divine Masculine, though, because I think it's particularly important. We live in a culture that emasculates men all the time in the name of machismo. Now, this happens in quite a few ways in their childhood. The most commonly ones are, I never want to grow up, little boys don't cry, who wants to be a father when they grow up, things that pretty much teach little boys that the adult, grown-up, powerful part of them, the conscience within them, the father within them, the powerful adult masculine within them will not be tolerated or accepted in this space. And their sexuality is really damaged. If you think about how we teach little kids about sexuality, typically little boys and little girls are taught about their sexuality in relation to procreation. You say to a little boy, your penis has sperm in it, and when you say, what's that for? What's sperm? You say, well, it's what makes babies. And you teach little kids from a very young age that sex is for, pleasure, but also for when you love somebody very much, and for procreation. And we don't really teach males directly about their sexuality, which is very sad, or women, by the way. So all this is happening indirectly. They're watching how their father relates to their mother. They're watching how other boys relate sexually to little other girls. But they are learning. They're learning through magazines. They're learning through media. I don't think any of us, no matter how conscious we are nowadays, can, or how proactive we are, can keep our children away from the influence, powerful influence of socialization and sexualization in the media. And this in particular causes problems for little boys, because they're given this very strong message that sexuality is for the creation of babies, and so are little girls, and for starting of families with people you love very much. But then when they hit puberty, when they hit about 10, 11 years old and they go into school and they have these sexual education talks, they're suddenly taught that the worst thing that they could possibly do is get a girl pregnant. The worst thing that they could possibly do is become a father. And they're not just taught that, they're taught that this could ruin their whole life, and this could ruin a girl's life, and that this is the opposite of what they want to do. So they're not really given sexual socialization as they're given the sexual fear talk. Combine that with the media pressure of, very few films with a family culture. All of the representations of adult men as being intellectually dumb, inferior. If you look at most of the father figures, whether it's Homer Simpson, whether it's the comedies like Meet the Fockers, whether it's most male films are not geared towards family at all, which is very different compared to the 50s, when most of the films were still involved families or romance. Nowadays it's mostly violence, it's mostly individuation, so I'm by myself and I'm free, and there is no family, there is no connection, there is no friends, there are no fathers. And that role is often ridiculed. Now for men, this is deeply emasculating, because in order for them to conform to this social machismo, they have to shut down their conscience, they have to shut down their emotional intelligence, they have to shut down their intellectual intelligence, and they have to deny not just their sexuality but their desire for adulthood. And this is where this idea kind of being born in around Victorian times is why Peter Pan was written. This idea of lost boys who are emasculated in their childhood, who are never able to grow up and who never want to grow up because they see growing up as something horrific. Now this idea, said by a woman, especially in this video, can seem controversial, but there's something very dark to it, and I'm gonna guide you through this as well. Now, if you think about it, for a very, very long time, before technology, before bombs, before guns, the only way to control a kingdom, the only way to control a country, was through men, and it was through controlling armies of men. Now, in order to have lots of men, you had to control lots of women, and you had to be able to impregnate lots of women and have them give birth on a regular basis. So, rule number one, why most societies outlaw contraception is exactly because of this. Conscription, which is still mandatory in many countries, and which still happens, nowadays, but which happened, all the way back in ancient Egypt, the firstborn son of the family being given to the country to serve rich people or the people who are in control, so that they can be used, so that they can die for their country for the purposes of war. So that's the second stage. You have to get these women to give you their children, which is the absolute decimation of the feminine and the betrayal of the masculine and the feminine. You can imagine what a betrayal that is for a little boy to be handed over to the army by his mother, the woman who has been entrusted by the universe to take care of him, and how much he would hate her for that. And this is generations worth of past life karma going on, and how hard it is for a woman to hand over her baby to the army, and be forced to by her country and by her husband when she had no rights of property. But you can see how these wounds are forming over time. And then in order to get this little boy to kill people and to do as he was told, you had to completely sever him from his connection to the earth, from his connection to women, and from his desire for family. So to do that, you have to emotionally abuse this little boy until he can't remember how much he loved being part of a family, until he can't remember how much women love him or take care of him, because that's very, very dangerous. It's the biggest danger if you want to control a man as a woman. The only thing that can bring out the divine masculine in a man is the divine feminine in a woman. It's an ancient memory. So even men who have been severely destroyed by war often will return if a woman is in her sacred feminine. So they went to the heights, the nth degree, to avoid this from happening, both by destroying the femininity, disrespecting the feminine, and also by making sure that men were only socialized to want sex. So create more babies for me to use in my army, and don't connect with the women, because then you won't actually care that you are killing other men's women or killing children, and you will have no conscience, and you will never stand up to me, because that's the other thing. If you emotionally shut down a man, he doesn't have the courage to stand up to you. And that's where you see men like Martin Luther King, like J.F. Kennedy, like Gandhi, who transformed the face of, humanity through peace. That's what one man can achieve when he's emotionally and spiritually conscious. And that's why society has emasculated men. It's emasculated them because spiritually and emotionally intelligent men don't kill people. They won't just do as they're told. They will serve the planet and they will serve their families. And they are absolutely fucking beautiful creatures. It's like watching panthers in a forest. There's divine intelligence running through every single inch of their bodies. It is the sexiest, the most beautiful thing you will ever see. And that's what's beginning to awaken in the male consciousness right now. But there's still a fear of that, because men who are in the divine masculine, who aren't in alignment with the elite or with the status quo, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Buddha, whether it's Gandhi, whether it's Martin Luther King, whether it's J.F. Kennedy, they've all been killed. And women, it's still very, very similar with all the stake burnings, because these beings are leaders. They're not weak, they're incredibly strong, and that light attracts and people follow them very, very quickly. So there's this ancient memory still blocking the divine masculine from reawakening, and experiencing the true horror of what's happened in its absence, because in the absence of the divine masculine, fear has dominated the masculine space, and through it war, mass murder, genocide, slavery, horrific things have come to pass in the slumber of the masculine consciousness. And as it awakens and stands in the atonement for that, which means feels the consequences of the absence, the masculine will return, it will awaken again, not just inside the men but inside the women. This deep knowing, not just that we're responsible for ourselves, but that love and conscience, justice, peace are the only answers, and that it is our job to be the protectors and guardians of the planet. Those are the 3 P's of the divine masculine: providing, protection, and passion. So you're looking at those elements starting to be reborn in men, and because partly we're afraid of you being killed, and partly we don't remember what this feels like. A lot of women don't know how to handle that energy of a man in control, of a man in power, of a man aligned with his purpose. And the same the other way around. A lot of men are absolutely terrified of the divine feminine, because it holds us accountable in a very loving way. It doesn't call us names, it doesn't put us down, but it does continuously forgive us for the mistakes that we make, have infinite mercy, infinite patience, huge amounts of adoration, huge amounts of love. So that's happening right now in the collective male consciousness. The men are waking up, and it's a beautiful thing to be nurtured, but what I just spoke about is mostly the reasons why it's being suppressed. So if as a guy you're wondering why you're consistently being pushed to be aggressive and why you're consistently being pushed not to develop emotional intelligence, it's because they're shit scared that you will become the man that you're capable of being, and in the presence of that light the world will transform into something absolutely beautiful and glorious. So I hope that answers your questions on the divine masculine. Please feel free to ask me more. I'm aware this is a huge topic and I only just touched the surface. Thank you very much for joining me. Please subscribe if you like the video. Thank you. Bye.